Once upon a time, in a quiet town surrounded by misty mountains and winding rivers, there lived a girl named Amara. She had big, curious eyes, a gentle smile, and a heart full of dreams. Amara loved stories more than anything. She would spend hours reading every book she could find, always dreaming of one day becoming a famous storyteller. Amara was shy, though, and preferred the company of books over people. She was happy enough with her own thoughts and tales until she entered middle school, where the world seemed to turn upside down. Her school was large, filled with children from all over the town, and she often felt lost in the crowd. To make matters worse, some of the older students noticed her quiet nature, and they found it easy to tease her. At first, it was just small things, snickers behind her back, whispers in the hallways, and mean notes left on her desk. But as time went on, the bullying became more intense. They laughed at her worn-out shoes, called her names, and even pushed her books to the floor, tearing pages from her favorite stories. Every day, she felt a little more of her heart break, and her confidence seemed to shrink like a shadow at night. One rainy afternoon, as Amara walked home, two of the bullies followed her, taunting her with names she couldn't ignore. They pushed her, and she stumbled, scraping her hands on the ground. It wasn't the scrape that hurt, it was the sting of their laughter as they left her there in the rain. Feeling shattered, Amara sat on the muddy ground, her tears mixing with the raindrops, her heart weighed down by sadness and shame. Finally, she stood up and made her way to her favorite place, a hidden spot by the river, where a large rock lay under the shelter of an old tree. She'd often sit there to read or just to watch the river flow, but this time she sat there feeling like the river itself was carrying away every piece of her confidence. As Amara sat in silence, her gaze fell on a small, shining stone resting on the riverbank. It sparkled under the gray light, as if calling out to her. She picked it up, feeling the smooth, cool surface in her palm, and heard a soft whisper in the wind. Amara, you are stronger than you know. You are like this river, you can carve through stone, reshape mountains, and keep flowing no matter what. Amara looked around, startled, but no one was there. She thought perhaps it was her imagination, but something about that stone made her feel a warmth deep inside her, as though the stone itself was filling her with courage. With a new resolve, Amara tucked the stone into her pocket, feeling its weight as a reminder of her strength. The next morning, she walked into school with her head held a little higher. She still felt afraid, but she also felt a spark of courage. When the bullies approached her, sneering, Amara remembered the stone and took a deep breath. When they mocked her torn books, she looked them straight in the eyes and said, "My books are filled with stories of heroes who fight against evil and conquer fear. I think I'm a lot braver than you think." The bullies, surprised, paused for a moment. No one had ever seen Amara speak up for herself, and in that moment of hesitation, she saw something she hadn't noticed before, fear. They backed away, confused by her sudden courage. As they left, Amara felt a surge of pride. She'd stood up for herself, and the feeling was more powerful than she had imagined. As days passed, Amara continued to carry the stone in her pocket, feeling its strength whenever she faced the bullies or moments of doubt. Little by little, she grew more confident, and others in her class began to notice. One day, another girl named Priya, who was also quiet and often teased, approached Amara. "How did you get so brave?" she asked. Amara smiled and showed Priya the stone. "I realized that we're stronger than we know. We just have to believe in ourselves, like a river that keeps flowing no matter what stands in its way." Inspired, Priya joined Amara, and soon other students who had faced bullying or loneliness began to gather around them. Together, they formed a club called Rivers of Strength. In the club, students shared stories of courage and supported each other, creating a space where everyone felt seen and valued. They spoke out against bullying, encouraged kindness, and celebrated each other's dreams. By the time Amara graduated, the school had transformed. The bullies had long since stopped their cruel behavior, realizing they couldn't break the spirit of those who believed in themselves. And Amara, the girl who had once felt so small and lost, had become known for her bravery, her kindness, and her unbreakable spirit. Years later, Amara fulfilled her dream of becoming a famous storyteller, writing tales that inspired children around the world to believe in their inner strength. She would often visit schools to share her story, always carrying the stone in her pocket as a reminder of that day by the river. She would end her talks with a message to all who listened. Inside each of us is a river of strength. It doesn't matter who tries to stand in our way, we can always flow past them, stronger than ever. And so, Amara's story became a legend in the town, a symbol of resilience, kindness, and courage that inspired generations of children to stand against bullying and believe in their own worth. The end.